Hi everyone, it's Ella Rose here. I was just looking into these strong cities that they were going on about, and when I searched for the page, this is what it come up with. It's oops, we couldn't find it, and there was no saved version in the Wayback Machine. There was no saved version here, couldn't find it. But I did find it, so I just want to have a quick share with you all. It was done on strategic framework to strengthen Victoria's social cohesion and the resilience of its communities, 25th of December version 1, authorised, published by the Victorian Government. And it's been scrubbed offline, like it's, this is what I'm saying, it's scrubbed offline. Check for saved versions, no saved versions. So I did manage to find an old version. So, let's see. One of Victoria's greatest assets is an open, accepting, diverse society. We're all stronger socially and economically, culturally. Because of it, the cohesive, open society is built on the principle that every person has the right to live free and from discrimination and humiliation due to their faith, ethnicity, gender and sexuality. By all international comparisons, Australia is one of the most successful and cohesive multicultural nationals. The Cohesion Foundation Map and Social Cohesion's 2015 report found that Australia continues to have a high level of social cohesion, and within Australia, Victoria stands out for its high level of respect for diversity and multiculturalism. However, there has been a small number of violent incidents in Australia, including in Victoria, which have been motivated by extreme radical and religious views which undermined the cohesive fabric of our communities. As Victorians, we need to work together to safeguard the open, cohesive society we have built. This includes challenging for inflexible, intolerant, discriminatory views and behaviours where these exist. To the full force of the law must be used against those who carry out or plan violence against our community. The government has nothing but praise for the work of the Victoria Police to keep us safe. However, this is only one part of what we must need to do. We must need to prevent this violence arising in the first place. Prevention is the main focus of this framework. Recent attacks on innocent civilians, including the horrendous events in Paris, Beirut and Ankara, were designed by ISIS and inspired terrorists with the explicit purposes of dividing communities. If we turn away from our open, accepting and diverse society, it will give extremists a victory. This is why it's more important than ever for us to strengthen Victoria's social cohesion and resilience of our communities. This important work involves a complex set of factors in which global and local issues intersect. The Victorian Government's ability to influence the course of global conflicts is limited. It can, however, work in partnership with local communities and other stakeholders to reduce the impact of these events on Victorian society. A key purpose of the strategic framework to strengthen Victoria's social cohesion and the resilience of its communities. The framework is to guide the Victorian Government in how to further strengthen Victoria's social cohesion and how to build and empower resilient communities in order to prevent and reverse the development of racial, ethnic and religious intolerance that can lead to violence. Framework that has been developed within the involvement of the broad range of community and not-for-profit organisations, government agencies, community members, Australian, international academics and philanthropic foundations. It recognises that government action alone can never be sufficient to fully address the social cohesion and community resilient challenges we face, and that consequently governments and communities need to work together. Well, I thought the government worked for the communities. The Victoria Government is therefore focusing on working with communities, community organisations, local governments and other stakeholders in Victoria to develop local projects and incentives that can help us maintain the values in the Victorian community we take such pride in. The framework is intended to guide and align our shared efforts to deal with specific problems in the way that we do, not to undermine with the very social cohesion we want to preserve and strengthen. The framework covers two specific but related issues, how government, communities, and academics and other stakeholders can work together to 1. Protect and enhance the social cohesion and resilience of our communities and society as a whole, and 2. Develop incentives that help prevent a small group of individuals or networks of individuals harming our cohesive society through violent extremism. Wow. A key priority of the framework is to support all Victorians to have a strong sense of belonging, whether their religion, ethnicity, skin colour, or cultural identity. Whatever they're, sorry. Those without sufficient sense of belonging can feel rejected, isolated. We aim to safeguard, nurture, and grow a diverse society that helps make Victoria a warming place in which to live, visit, and invest. The framework uses social cohesion model developed by the strengthin model and the Monash University for mapping social cohesion, longitudinal study, and the social cohesion model includes 5 domains. 1. Belonging, shared values, identification with Australia, trust. 2. Social justice and equity, equity of opportunity and trust in institutions. 3. Participation, voluntary work, political and cooperative involvement. 4. Anticipate acceptance and rejection, legitimacy, experience of discrimination, attitudes towards minorities and newcomers. 5. Worth, life satisfaction and happiness, future expectations. The Mapping Social Cohesion 2015 study found that Victoria continues to have a high level of social cohesion, but there are challenges which need to be addressed. The framework calls on Victorians to help address those challenges. It aims further to strengthen the social cohesion which underpins our shared safety, prosperity and well-being. A socially cohesive society is also a resilient society. The framework uses the broad definition of the resilience adopted by the Rockefeller Foundation's Global 100 Cities Resilient Cities programs. The 100 Resilient Cities program defines resilience as the capacity of individuals, communities, institutions, businesses, and systems to survive, adapt, and grow no matter what kind of chronic stresses and acute shocks they experience. Building resilient communities is important because they are more likely to adapt in positive and healthy ways to change or natural challenges in natural, economic, or social circumstances. Our society resilience in Victoria is built upon the diversity and strength of all our various individual and community links, relationships. Division between people or groups in our community reduces the diversity strengths of our networks, weakens our social cohesion, and limits our ability to adapt proactively to change and unexpected events. Connected communities are resilient communities because they are ready to look out for each other in times of crisis, whether it be flood, bushfire, or an incident of violent extremism. They function reliably, and when under stress, successfully adapt, are self-reliant, and have high levels of social support, social cohesion, social capacity. These social support systems include neighbourhood, family, kinship networks, intergenerational supports, good links between communities, institutions and services, self-help groups. The National Strategy for Disaster Resilience, which is on the Council of Australian Governments, Cohesion, endorsed in 2011, points out achieving community resilience will require sustained behavioural change, the result of which should have been seen across a number of years in political cycles. Achieving the objectives of the framework will also require long-term commitment. Social cohesion and community resilience require continued investment by communities, governments, services providers, academics, philanthropists, businesses, individuals to keep them strong. Governments alone cannot make or keep society cohesive or communities resilient. These are shared responsibilities for all of us. Okay. Ow! Sorry, excuse me. Before I go any further, I'll just give you a definition of what their social cohesion is. It's a social cohesion is defined as a cohesive society that works towards the well-being of all its members, fights exclusion and marginalisation, creates a sense of belonging, promotes trust, offers its members an opportunity of upward mobility, rising from a lower to a higher social class or status. While the notion of social cohesion is often used with different meanings, its constituent element remains the same, including concerns about social inclusion, process of improving the terms for individuals and groups to take part in society. It aims to empower poor and marginalized people to take advantage of rising global opportunities. Social capital, the resource that are available to people cooperating together towards common end. And social mobility, the ability of individuals or groups to move upward, downwards in a status based wealth, occupation, education, or other social. Now, I just want to quickly show one other thing. This is the same group that had done part of this report. It says here, many of us agree that Australia has been a highly cohesive society, and of any objective standard, the Australian experience of mass immigration is an empathetic success story. Every decade since the end of Second World War, Australia has taken more than 1 million migrants and has done so without entering social discord. We have been an exemplar of nation building, of immigration nation, where multiculturalism is celebrated and accepted as part of our national story. We do not have frequent outbreaks of civil unrest, racial rioting, whereas it's quite common in other liberal democracy. Children of migrants outperform the children of Australian-born parents where it concerns education and employment. 80% of those who arrive in Australia as migrants become Australian citizens within a decade. There are signs of all success. So I just wanted to show you that little quick bit before I went on with this bit, because this is just a bit contradicting. There are a small number of individuals across Australia, including Victoria, whose beliefs and actions threaten other people's free exercise of their democratic rights and freedoms. Ideologically motivated violence is usually based on a belief rather than one race, ethnicity, or religion is better than another, and there is only one good or right way to live. Actions motivated by such extreme ideas, which can occur across wide political and social spectrum, undermining social cohesion and have no place in an accepting democratic society. Whether a person is right-wing or ISIS-inspired extremist, neither is accepted. The Victorian Government approach includes understanding why violent extremism arises and addressing its root causes. The evidence strongly suggests that that is not a problem of the whole community, of whole communities in our society, but rather that of a small number of individuals in their personal networks. Young people wrestling with issues such as social isolation, family breakdowns, mental health concerns, or identity changes can be particularly vulnerable, lonely, confused, frustrated by a lack of purpose and belonging, feeling a sense of emptiness in life. Some people seek to fill the gap by turning to crime, criminal gangs, or substance abuse. Others may be vulnerable to extremist ideas which offer false promises and rewards that appear to fill this gap. These vulnerable individuals are often deliberately targeted by in Australia and overseas. The framework is not focused on legislative or law enforcement measures where individuals are planning or engaging acts of. This is a matter for law enforcement. However, cohesive, resilient societies also recognise the need for prevention and early intervention efforts that aim to stop the individuals starting or continuing along the path of violence against the rest of society. In pursuit of these, there is no one process or pathway to violence, as a combination of the causes and drivers are unique to each individual. There needs to be a number of different approaches. The framework seeks to guide effective ways for government, community organisations, communities, families and young people to work together to create initiatives that can both prevent individuals being drawn into in the first place and assist in their disengagement. The White House Summit on Preventing Violence, held in the United States February 2015, explicitly supports this approach, emphasising that effectively preventing the spread of violence in different communities requires localised, specialised and expanded efforts, thus reinforcing the need for further empowerment of youth, families and women, as well as religious, cultural and education leaders and all other concerned civil society actors, and to adopt tailored approaches, including those sensitive to local cultures and religious belief. The Victorian Government is following this approach. Now, how can we have, since World War II, have over 1 million, each decade come in, and yet it's only the last 20 years we seem to have a problem. Come on, people. What's going on? This is just something's not right. Something's off. The framework recognises that we are dealing with complex issues that are interconnected and that can be difficult to fully understand, therefore drawing on board expertise, creating a range of initiatives which are locally owned and led by communities is critical. Incentives driven by governments alone will not succeed, nor will they any approaches that are solely driven from top down. One purpose of the framework is to invite new ways of working to design, deliver, innovate locally appropriate initiatives. In May 2015, the Victorian Government announced a commitment of 25 million over 4 years to facilitate the collective action across governments, community, academia, and strengthen social cohesion, community resilience, and prevent violent extremism. The funding is administered by the Social Cohesion, Community Resilient Ministerial Task Force. Okay, didn't even know that task force existed. The task force developed the framework, which identifies key policy and thematic priorities to guide the allocation of funding and support the alignment of the initiatives across sectors. Throughout the task force, there is a significant amount of work that has already been undertaken by communities, business, service providers, governments, philanthropists, academia, sports clubs, and many other number of initiatives. These initiatives are being co-designed to strengthen social cohesion, resilience, and to empower local communities, community groups to help prevent individuals being drawn into violent extremist activity. It is anticipated that the framework will provide an opportunity for new connections, conversations to occur between those already involved and those who want to become involved in this important work to ensure our collective efforts are better aligned to be able to achieve greater impact. So the strategic framework. The framework outlines how we as government, communities, academics, service providers, philanthropic providers, businesses and other stakeholders can work together to further strengthen Victoria's social cohesion and build community resilience, vision, and inclusion. Victoria, which embraces rich diversity as precious community asset itself and supports people to thrive, respond better to a changing, complex, unpredictable world. Objectives: to create incentives that will empower communities, particularly young people, to address economic, social, and cultural issues that may lead to individual or community isolation, antisocial behaviour, including violence, and to build up community resilience to prevent violence. 2. To develop understanding of the driving factors that strengthen, undermine social cohesion and community resilience. 3. Support social cohesion Victoria underpinned by social justice and equity, in which all its people have a sense of belonging, acceptance, and worth, and have equal opportunity to participate meaningfully in all aspects of society. 4. Increase inter-community and intercultural interaction, understanding, building the recognition that shared values and the foundations of common humanity transcend cultural and religious differences. Principles: how we can work, how we do this work is just as important as to which the initiatives we undertake. We recognise that these complex issues, which require a high degree of collaboration and trust between the governments and communities, between different communities, between individuals and civic society, no one sector, community, institution, or organisation can solve these issues alone, nor can one single age court. Empowering and equipping young people is the key to successfully engaging with many of the challenges we face, the necessities reaching beyond the established community leaders and existing programs. We will engage with a broad range of stakeholders to identify common interests and benefits that might be achieved by working together. This will help secure a board of ownership of strategies and goals to engender the long-term commitments of being part of the solution. Excuse me for that. New ways of working together. Initiatives that will be co-created with a broad range of stakeholders to ensure they build on existing community strengths and reflect on local contexts. These include working across areas such as education, employment, the arts, sports, local government sectors, both face-to-face and online. We will encourage, support local communities, government agencies, businesses, service providers, philanthropic foundations, young people, academia, others to work together to identify key challenges, opportunities, create initiatives, incentives together. We will establish equity amongst stakeholders and support regular communication of the building of trust through positive partnership. A measure of willingness to take some risks with new and innovative ideas and tolerance for some failures is essential. This initiative experimental approaches increasingly be used around the world to address social issues where solutions are unclear and whether no single entity has authority or resources about to bring a necessary change. Wow. See that. Evidence informed. New research, data from government, other sources, community knowledge will be used to enable existing new incentives to achieve greatest impact. We will commission and source research evaluations that recognize community insights as an important source of knowledge. We will seek out potentially useful data sets from government and other sources, work through issues such as privacy to enable data to be shared in an appropriate way to support collective efforts. Opportunities will be created for regular reflection of learning to adapt and respond to changing local circumstances, identifying promising and best practice which can be shared with others. Sustainability needs to be considered from the outset, given to the long-term nature of social change. We will seek to buy in and commit the broad range of stakeholders, including young people and those not necessarily recognized as leaders, strive to influence the policies and practices of governments and other stakeholders, build community capability, and enable the establishment of new relations across sectorial and organizational boundaries. So they'll seek to buy in. Governance. Governance arrangements will ensure shared accountability, transparency, and participation, whilst also providing flexibility for innovative collaborators. We will wish to a practice which will support shared decision making and shared accountability for outcomes. We will set to undertake periodic reviews of governance arrangements to respond to changing circumstances, to incorporate emerging evidence-based to promote shared responsibility. Priority themes to be addressed have been identified by a broad range of stakeholders during the development of the framework, including 1. Recognizing the unique contributions made by religion, culture, and the formation of identity and the development of sense of belonging. 2. Improving education and employment outcomes. 3. Developing leadership and improving advocating capability, including amongst young people. 4. The impact of media and public disclosure, including media. 5. Facilitating meaningful, sustained interaction between diverse communities. 6. Enhancing support for communities to play a greater role in exchanging ideas which undermine the community's harmony, such as, I'm not even going to bother with saying this, because this is mainly by media. I don't see this in the community. I really don't. 7. Encouraging the exploration and the resolution of concerns through democratic means. Priority actions to enable the support initiatives which address the priority themes. The Victorian Government will undertake the following. 1. Establish governance, infrastructure and funding mechanisms. Develop, implement community co-produced evidence-informed policy. 2. Seek out and encourage communities, other stakeholders to develop incentives based on local needs. 3. Joint work across government, community organisation, researchers, businesses, communities, families, young people, to develop initiatives to prevent individuals being drawn to violent extremism and pathways to rehabilitate those who have become enmeshed on violent extremism. 4. Support initiatives that threaten the resilience of diverse communities through building their capacity to engage in civil society, increasing their understanding of human rights, and through intercultural and interfaith understanding. 5. Work across government to achieve greater equity of educational employment outcomes for young people from Victoria's diverse communities. 6. Explore ways to encourage young people in leadership roles across Victoria's future custodians. 7. Develop a multifaceted community strategy working across social media, communities and governments. 8. Enable positive narratives around culture, ethnic and religious diversity. 9. Support the development of alternative narratives which challenge the radically and religiously intolerant views of underpinning violence. 10. Engage with philanthropy foundations and other partners to develop alternative funding and delivery models. 11. Partner the delivery of the Resilient Melbourne project initiated through the 100 Resilient Cities programs. I'll bring that up next. I found that. That is a Rothschild thing, I think. Yeah, it's Rockefeller. So I'll bring that up next. 12. Influence the alignment of efforts across Victorian Government agencies. 13. Commission research evaluations to continue to build evidence base that works well. 13. Indicators. The Victorian Government is working with Vic Health, Community Indicators Victoria, the McNaughty Courtney Vic Health Centre, Community Wellbeing, the Scallion Foundation, and others to identify appropriate indicators to monitor and impact the collective efforts of stakeholders in achieving the framework objectives. Indicators will use existing data sets, e.g. socialisation and social capital, where possible, to understand the extent to which 1. People, especially young people, feel a sense of belonging. 2. People, especially young people, feel empowered and able to actively participate in the community. 3. The wider Victorian community is more accepting of people from diverse backgrounds and actively values and upholding the human rights. 4. Communities are empowered to support individuals to disengage from extreme views which may undermine community harmony. Review. In order to ensure currency, the framework will be reviewed annually. So we've had over 1 million since a year, every decade since World War II. Why is it suddenly a problem now? Stakeholders and implementation. We will work together with a broad range of stakeholders to achieve the framework's visions, objectives, and implementing priority actions will improve the establishment of partnerships between community governments, not-for-profit entities, and other stakeholders. Many such partnerships already exist. Others are likely to emerge, reflecting on the need for solutions which draw local knowledge and expertise. The diagram on the right illustrates the stakeholders which will be involved in this work. So yeah, the government doesn't have much say in it, does it? It's just, yeah. Research. The research of the Institute for Social Cohesion has been established to ensure the collective efforts are evidence-informed. The Victorian Government will fund the research in 3 priority areas: social cohesion and multiculturalism, develop an understanding of value of social cohesion, multiculturalism, and diversity, develop innovative methodologies and theories for assessing social cohesion, multiculturalism, community resilience and inclusion, community polarization and marginalization, develop an understanding the roots of and the relationship between community polarization, marginalization, and violent extremism, and project innovation, identify new projects, activities that will revitalize social cohesion, multicultural vision, diversity, identify new projects, activities that build individuals and community resilience to radical ethnic or religious extremism, including violent extremism, evaluation of projects, activities funded by the task force, including development, innovative elevation methodologies, funding priorities. Funding will be provided to initiatives which will build social cohesion at a community level, and incentives which will target individuals who may be radical. The diagram below illustrates the 4 funding categories. Early intervention, 2 is individual intervention, 3 is capacity building, and 4 is the whole community. So this is just going on what I've just read. So yeah, this is the page that they were hiding. They did not want me to find. This is it. I found it eventually. It was removed. So it comes from this one, the Strong Cities. So this is what it's about. It's the Strong Cities. Victoria, population 6,244,227. I will do a quick video just to make this one shorter. Thanks for watching. Bye.